Hello. Well, I want to talk about the way even the most skeptical of us is being forced to redefine the way we speak. And that's a bit of a problem nowadays, isn't it? I want to talk here about an article on the GB News in which they're talking, as you can see, about a report from the University of Leicester's Centre for Hate Studies. Fancy having, do they have nothing better to do? Well, obviously not. You see, the problem is they're talking about the countryside now being overwhelmingly racist or something. Those people would have been out baling hay 100 years ago. Now there's no jobs for them baling hay because we've got combine harvesters. And so they have to go to Leicester University and start redefining racism instead. You tell me which is the better job or the more useful job. Anyway, a report from the University of Leicester's Centre for Hate Studies, for goodness sake, claims the countryside is ethnic minorities feel excluded. What? GB News isn't doing a lot better. In overwhelmingly white rural Britain, due to a lack of halal food. Okay, so the whole premise is completely ridiculous to start with. But even worse, am I recording? Yeah. Even worse is this guy is very skeptical. He's making fun of the whole idea and everything. And then he modifies his language because that's the sort of pressure we're under nowadays. All right, I'll tell you now, before I start modifying my language, that I'm granniopteryx. Please like this video. Yeah, click that like. If you don't like what I've said afterwards, towards the end of the video, you can, or before you close it down in a fury, you can click unlike, so you're not committed to everything. But now you're thinking of it. Click the like. Okay. Share the video if you want to, and subscribe to my channel. If you want to contribute financially, a lot of people do that, and it's really nice. It doesn't have to be millions or thousands or hundreds or even tens. People are just giving me what they can, and I do appreciate that because I have to buy equipment, I have to replace equipment, and of course, I spend some time doing this. All the links to that are in the description, but contributing really isn't the most constructive thing you can do. The most constructive thing is clicking the like and subscribing. YouTube seem to be shaving off my subscriptions. They do that from time to time, and I reckon I've annoyed somebody. All right, well, yeah, let's get on with talking about the modification of language. You see, I was for a long time an English teacher, and actually you never stop being an English teacher, so I still am, I suppose. And when language gets subverted, I get very, very angry about it, and anxious too, I might say. All right. Raw granniopteryx. All right, so let's just hear what this guy has to say. I'm afraid I don't know who is speaking. It's difficult for me to read the screen because it's a laptop and I've got the screen tipped forward so it doesn't reflect in my glasses. So I can't read it that easily. But anyway, this is what he has to say when Leicester says there's no halal food in the countryside, and that means it's racist. Let's set aside the idea of Leicester University not knowing the difference between racist and between Islam and racism. Let's leave that on one side just for the moment. Let's hear this chap.
I wouldn't recommend that as actual advice. No, the idea that it's overwhelmingly white. In a country that's 86% white, you might have 86% of the countryside. And obviously, the city centres are where your greater diversity is. The countryside's going to look like that.
Right. Did you hear that? The city centres are where you're going to get more diversity. That's not what he means. In fact, that's a terribly bad use of the word. Because I was driving through Whitechapel. Well, I wasn't driving, I was in a taxi, going through Whitechapel yesterday. And I and the taxi driver were the only two white faces in the whole area. And there weren't any black faces, any West Indian or African faces there either. It was 100% what's referred to as South Asian. Most likely Pakistani or Bangladeshi. There was absolutely no diversity there at all. It was completely monocultural. The dress, the general skin colour, and without doubt the religion as well. But this chap didn't say Asian people or whatever. He said more diverse. Now, West Indians are not that bothered about halal food. Neither are the Chinese, nor are the Sikhs, nor are the Hindus. And they're also a large percentage of city centre populations, maybe different city centres. Because when you're in an area that's predominantly Muslim, you soon find yourself uncomfortable. Because the Muslims make you uncomfortable. I've heard about a situation where somebody gave advice. What had happened was a Muslim man and a friend came round knocking on a door in a certain area. He had a suitcase full of money and he offered the people in the house that money for their house and told them that if they didn't accept it, they'd regret it. Well, they didn't accept it, and then Muslims started moving into that street, and I'm talking not Muslims, South Asian, Pakistanis probably. I may be doing them a disservice, it may have been Bangladeshis, but they moved into the street. They would park their car in front of this neighbour's gate and that sort of thing. Just making life completely miserable for them. And then finally they offered them a lot less than they'd offered them before. And this person was saying that repeated calls to the police got absolutely no response whatsoever. The police weren't going to involve themselves. So the advice that this fellow gave was, if something like this happens to you, if a one or two, it's usually two Muslims turn up on your doorstep, offer you a fairly poor but lower end price for your house, just leave, take the money and run. That's what he said. That was his advice, because the police aren't going to help you. So when we're talking about diversity, no, in these areas where there's a heavy concentration of Muslims, you will not feel at all like you want to stay in a diverse area, because the area won't be diverse. And the same thing is happening here when the University of Leicester's Centre for Hate Studies, why they would bother with calling it hate studies, well, you can imagine for yourselves why they might have done that. But they're obviously looking for hate. And they say that the countryside is ethnic minorities, it says here. Ethnic minorities feel excluded in overwhelmingly white rural Britain due to a lack of halal food. Ethnic minorities will include Chinese, Sikhs, Hindus, Jains. You know, there are many different ethnicities. Jews, yes, them too. They might feel that they're not being catered for in the country. They go there and they have vegetarian if they're not interested in eating pork pies or whatever. They can stick with the pickled onions and the cheese sandwiches. This is another example of Muslim bullying. I'm assuming that the Leicester Centre for Hate Studies is filled with Muslims or non-Muslims who want to feel saintly. We all have to be aware of how the language is being polluted by these ideas, and even skeptics making jokes will use the word diverse when diversity is the wrong word, really. So he's been polluted as much as anyone else. Okay, till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.